Demon Girl, Book 1, Chapter 1. It's the start of our second week here. We finally got a good amount of boxes unpacked, and the movers did a good job setting up all of our furniture as fast as they did. So now it's a great new start in this new big city of Edmonton. The house is quite a bit smaller than our last, or maybe it just seems that way because there are 2 stories now. But the room I share with Star, it's so big and so open. There's so much room for our beds and desks. And the living room was set up even and nice too, ignoring a few corners where some boxes were stacked until we found a better place for them. Our soft blue couch was placed almost in the middle with our TV against the wall. The back wall had a small desk next to a bookshelf with plenty of boxes around it, yet to fill the space. "Kids, what do you want for dinner tonight?" Mom yells from the kitchen. Star and I were unpacking some boxes in the living room, finding blankets and pillows from a box that should have been put upstairs. Before either of us could respond, we heard some boxes falling, and our mom gasping slightly. I glanced at Star, quickly running towards the kitchen, only to trip on a box our mom had dropped, falling beside her as she lies on the ground after tripping over the other boxes. I laugh as Star runs to help, only falling over as well. We all lay on the ground laughing softly after making sure we were okay. "Well," I say, getting up, helping Mom up, and then Star, quickly checking over them, making sure they were okay. "I think sushi is a good idea." "Oh, we can try out that new place we saw on the way home yesterday, the one just off of the main road," Star says, smiling wide as she picks up one of the boxes. "It'd be a good chance to try and get to know the area, too." "Sushi it is, then," Mom says, grabbing the box from her gently, stacking it on top of the counter like it was before she knocked it over. "Go get your stuff ready and we'll head over there. We can drive past your new school so you guys can learn the path as well." I felt a pit in my stomach as she mentioned school. We were starting tomorrow. A brand new, terrifying start, leaving everything else in the past. I sighed, trying to collect myself before my thoughts spiraled, and headed upstairs behind Star to grab my sweater. I watch the buildings pass as our mom drives. "I'm so excited! What do you think we should get?" Star says, smiling as she looks out the front window. "I want to see how good the sushi rolls are here," I mumbled, looking at the school as we passed it. It had ended just about 2 hours ago, but there were still kids running around the field, and a few cars in the parking lot. "Ooh, we could share a platter, but I wanted to try the bubble tea. I think I saw they had like 20 flavors. Star quickly turns around to face me. "We could get 2 flavors and see which one is better." I gave her a soft smile as I nodded. "Well, we do have enough to get both of those. I'll probably get a bento box for myself," Mom says, glancing at the school. "Isn't that nice? It's a small school." "Yeah," I mumble, watching the last view of it pass as we approach the restaurant. I got out of the car, gently closed the door, and stood in admiration of the entrance of the store. I could see inside, and it just seemed so calm. I eagerly walked inside, standing by the door and holding it open for Star and Mom to look around a bit longer. "Any changes in what we're having?" Mom asks, walking up to the counter. Both Star and I shake our heads as we look around. "All right, take a seat. I'll be there in a second." I walk slowly as Star walks ahead, trying to find the best empty booth to continue admiring the building. I couldn't stop staring at the artwork on the walls, cherry blossom trees, a waterfall with pretty shining rocks at the bottom, and walls lined with gold rims about half a foot from the floor. Small, yet strong, soothing lights hung above each table glowing softly, lighting up the table in the best way. Pausing so I can scroll. And I gotta say something, or I'm gonna miss my pauses and stuff in editing. How long have this been going on for? 24 minutes. That is embarrassing. Oh, okay. Eventually, our mom came and sat down with a soft smile on her face after talking with the cashier for much longer than it would have taken to place the order. It didn't take much longer after she sat down for our food to arrive, and we didn't talk much as we ate. The sushi platter Star and I shared was rich and had a good amount of variety. Flavorful salmon cuts and crunchy bits of shrimp. Star enjoyed the crunchy cucumber ones, but I think her favorite was the spicy crab rolls, even if she tried to deny that they were almost too spicy for her. Our mom surprised us by getting Star a chocolate bubble tea and getting me a brown sugar one. I think I liked the chocolate one more, and Star kept stealing mine, which was pretty funny. We split the sushi platter in half. Yet, even then I couldn't finish my plate. Hell, I gave a few of mine to Star, and even after it all, she still suggested getting some dessert. We all looked at her like she had a hole in her stomach, staring at her with odd smiles as we held back laughter. "What? I saw someone get some ice cream and it looked good," she says, pouting at us before giggling softly. After Star started giggling, Mom and I couldn't hold back our laughter. "We still have some ice cream at home. Why don't we finish that off and come back here another day?" Mom says, tidying up the table to make the waitress's job easier. I helped her, smiling softly as Star responded, "Okay." Star and I stand in a room getting ready for bed and also school tomorrow. I looked towards my hand, almost scared of how badly it was shaking above my backpack, as I was towards school tomorrow. The day went by so fast, and now I had to try and act like it was all going to be okay. All this new change, all over again. I was tired, still so full from dinner, which only made me more tired, and scared, which, again, only made me more tired. I put my backpack down at the end of my bed, leaving the rest of it till morning. "Star," my voice cracked slightly, a lump in my throat. The whisper of a word, "good night," was lost in my lungs before I said her name. She looked over at me, concerned in her soft eyes as she sat up in her bed. "What's up, sis?" she says softly, getting a bit more comfortable as she turns towards me fully. I sigh, pausing as I look through the window. I didn't want to bother with it or trouble her with my thoughts in my mind. Right before bed, nonetheless. I open my mouth to speak as I turn my head, exaggerating my movements as I dismissed my feelings. "Don't say it's nothing," Star said sternly, recognizing my patterns. I sighed and smiled at her, a guilty but appreciative smile. "I'm just worried. Do you think that it will happen again?" I pulled my legs to my chest, looking down at the mismatched socks that matched the color of my eyes. "Nope," she says, her eyes lighting up optimistically. "I believe, even if it gets that close, it won't happen again. You're getting better every day, Emma, and I know it's hard. But you're getting better." Her reassuring words lifted a weight off my shoulders. The fear and stress of the thought seemed to lift a little, allowing me to feel a bit more comfortable as my eyes closed. "Thank you," I say softly, lying down, wrapping myself in my blanket. "Sorry," I mumbled softly, still feeling sorry for burdening her with my thoughts. "Don't be sorry, Emma. It's okay. It's gonna be okay," she said with a soft giggle before her voice softened. "Good night, sis." "Good night." I lay there for a while still. My thoughts clouded my mind, my eyelids only growing heavier as my mind grew louder. I turned over, just to see Star already passed out. The moon shone through the window, the bright blue hues lighting up the room, bouncing off the walls and various random things that reflected the light. I sighed as I looked at the moon, and the blues felt so kind to my eyes. It felt so nice to close them. The sight of the moon shining brightly etched into my mind, the place I was welcomed into. The black hues of my closed eyes faded to purples of my headspace, some place I had all my life, an escape in my semi-conscious mind before it became my enemy, forming nightmares that left me exhausted every morning. As I woke up to the sun lighting up our room and the soft beeping of my alarm, I couldn't help but groan as the energy just to turn off the alarm seemed too much. I didn't want to go through this again, a new school and obviously new bullies. I rubbed my eyes, not excited to go through this again. Any of it. I flinched as Star threw off the blankets and literally jumped out of bed with a big smile on her face. "Come on, Emma," she said, running to her dresser and grabbing some clothes for the day. She glanced over her shoulder at me, taking notice of my hesitance, and looked out the window. "Emma, come on, it'll be good to try and make new friends." I sighed, and slowly got out of bed with a weak smile on my face. "Yeah, all right, sis," I say, grabbing my backpack and putting it on my bed to finish filling it with the new things I needed. She always seemed to know what I wanted, and God, did I want new friends. Well, I didn't want new friends, I just wanted friends in general. "I'll go get changed, so you can go get ready. I'll make us some pancakes to take to school," Star says, holding both her change of clothes and her backpack in her arms. "Don't take too long. Imagine all the friends we could make," she said as she walked out of the room. I sighed, looking down at my backpack, unaware of the many seconds that passed as I looked at it. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the backpack straps. The rest of my body felt cold, shaking as I stressed about what this would turn into. Half a school year was already out the window, and I wasn't caught up in work. Sis? I flinch as Star comes back into the room to put her pajamas in the laundry basket. You okay? Just worried, I mumbled, breathing out a breath that I didn't realize I was holding in. My head spun slightly as I turned to face her. Head downstairs. I'll meet you down there, I mumbled, waving my hand dismissively. Okay, she said softly, dropping her clothes in the basket and walking away. I sigh and leave my bag on my bed as I grab my clothes for the day. A purple sweater that felt so comforting, a birthday present I was given just before we moved. I also grabbed a pair of jeans and a soft dark blue shirt. After getting dressed, I walked downstairs, still admiring the layout of the new house, my backpack gently tapping against the wall as I walked down the stairs. Once I turned the corner, I started giggling as I noticed Star looking at her pancakes like a dog that's never been fed. Her eyes widened as she looked over at me, her face becoming slightly red from embarrassment, even before I could ask what she was doing. I'm waiting for you, she said, sitting a bit straighter, and then motioning to the pancake she had set out across from me. We need to get through this day together, every part of it. I smiled softly, looking at the plate of pancakes between her and my plate. Okay, I say, with a soft sigh, placing my backpack down by the closet and sitting down. I didn't feel like eating, and if it wasn't for her being obsessed with making pancakes, then I probably wouldn't have ever eaten breakfast. There was this uncomfortable pit in my stomach that I could easily mistake for not wanting to eat, but I knew it was stress. I'd gone through this all before, so many times before. We only spent a few weeks in our old school after having to switch from another problem, and here we are again. I could easily assume it was going to repeat all over again and again. Emma, I know you like my pancakes, but are you headed for a new record or something? I stopped, my food just in front of my mouth before I tilt my head at her, and then glanced down at the plate of pancakes that I had noticeably less than when I sat down. I glanced at the time, realizing I was stuck in my thoughts, eating non-stop for about 15 minutes. Only then I noticed how full I was. But I had only about a quarter of a pancake left, so I ignored it for now. I shrug it off and continue eating, just to smile at Star, as she continues to look at me concerned. Seriously, Emma, that's your 5th pancake. You're going to get a stomachache. I'll be fine, I say, dipping my next bite in a bit of syrup. She sighed, shaking her head and finishing her pancakes, sitting comfortably as she waited for me to finish mine. Here, let me take your plate, she said, holding her hand out for it. I gently hand it to her and stand up. Thank you. I'm just glad I never have to worry about them going to waste, she says, a big smile on her face as she rinses the plate. Think you could carry the backpacks? I roll my eyes, already picking her as up. It was almost a ritual that I grabbed both of our backpacks on the first day. Her backpack was always too heavy for her. Come on, don't want to be late for your 3rd first day of this year, do you? She pushes my shoulder, glaring at me and hearing the obvious distaste for the words that came out of my mouth. And you don't want to miss a chance to make new friends, do you? She smiled at me and opened the door. I couldn't help myself as I paused. The bright sun shining outside, the chatter of kids in the distance, the sound of moving vehicles, far-off honking. The city was loud. Too loud. I felt my hands gripping the strings of my backpack again, tight fists with white knuckles, before Star calmly smiled at me, standing in front of me, and drowning out the bit of noise that came through the door. Come on, Emma. Her voice was soft, kind. As I struggled to bring my body just to take one step, she puts her hand on my shoulder. You've got this. Just remember to breathe, okay? I gulp, even forgetting to do that before I open my mouth. A sharp breath filling my lungs before I sighed, pushing it all away. Okay, let's go. We stand in the office of our new school. The front doors lead to a big open hallway that holds most of the classrooms along the hall. A few hallways stretching in opposite directions that we had yet to explore. Alrighty, here are your schedules, your maps, your class list, and I'm forgetting something. The office helper looked back and another teacher handed her 2 sheets of paper, not even looking up from her computer as she typed. Oh yes, we will We were told of your situation by your mother. I felt a pang of anger as she skipped around it. So, here's a sheet for the student counselor if you ever need her. She's super kind, always there if you need her. I felt my jaw tighten as I looked at it, shoving it in my bag as I glared at the ground. Think you could hold on to mine? I don't think I need it, Star said, smiling softly to the office helper. I appreciate it, though. I'll come back for it if I ever have second thoughts, but for right now, I don't think I need another paper to lose. She giggled softly, her warm voice seeming to throw away the anger I had. I sighed as I turned away from them. All right, thank you again, Star said, walking away with me. She sighed as she looked at me and then at her schedule. As we walked out, I could already notice kids staring. I felt fear building up, whispers sounding so loud to me, and then the laughter of everyone ringing in my ears. I couldn't hear my breathing, just my heartbeat as it boomed in my chest. We don't have a lot of classes together. I think I can talk to them about getting that changed, though. Star's voice barely reached my ears. I heard what she said, and something in me reacted to it, only making the stress worse as I glanced around the hall, a few kids' eyes staring into mine. Emma? I felt the tightness of my teeth against my tongue, my chest getting tight as I felt a knot in my throat. Emma, come on, you gotta remember to breathe. The tightness only got worse as my eyes continued to scan. More eyes on me, more laughter, more whispering. It was repeating again. It was all going to happen again. Emma! I flinch as Star walks in front of me. She sighed, looking down at my tight fists as I held my books. She shifted all of hers onto her left hand as she reached her right up to my face. It's okay, she said, moving my hair in front of my right eye. It was something I did so much before we moved. I didn't like the eyes on me. The unnatural purple of my eye attracted so many unwanted problems. It didn't help that my left eye was just as vibrant. A beautiful deep blue, but at least blue was a natural eye color. Can you breathe for me? Please? Come on. In? She paused, breathing in and looking at me calmly. I felt my jaw soften its grip, the knot in my throat subsiding as I breathed in slowly. There we go. And out. She breathed out slowly, and I followed along. Class, I mumbled, looking down at my hands, searching through the papers slowly for my schedule. You said we didn't have any together? She frowned and nodded. Damn it, I muttered, finally grabbing it. Hey, there's always a lunch break, though, and then after school we can have leftover sushi, she said, her eyes seeming to light up with a big smile on her face. Can you promise to breathe today? Just any time you feel even close to being stressed. Just breathe through it, and at lunch, I'll be there. I nodded softly. Yeah, I can do that. Great, she said, taking a step back. Then I'll see you at lunch. Yeah, I'll see you then, I say slowly. I watched as she turned and walked off, almost skipping down the hall as she looked through the halls for her class, completely ignoring her map. I grabbed out mine, trying to carefully remember the class numbers, leaning against the wall next to the office, trying hard to breathe through my thoughts. The idea was that every whisper and every laugh was about me. I circled where our lockers were and decided to start from there. Besides, my next class was right beside it. Science class. The ringing of the bell flooded my ears, and it was only then that I finally looked up from my books. Both classes I spent buried in work, and I had to catch up on it. Everything was so overwhelming, and I could hear the kids talking about me. At the random moments I'd move my hair from over my eye, I'd hear a kid or two point out to their friends how bright and purple it was. Kids were whispering, talking, laughing. I felt my skin burn with chills and cold sweat lacing my sweater sleeves whenever I moved my arm to continue writing. There were moments I had to look up to see the board, and every single time, there was a set of eyes on me. Wide, piercing eyes. Sometimes it was a group of girls, and the only name I paid attention to was Kayla. It seemed to send an unfamiliar feeling through my blood, along with some deja vu that made my head spin. I didn't even have time to shake it off before there were two more names called. Clinton and Carl. the way they looked at me. Their piercing red eyes, their stubborn yet almost fearful looks. I felt my body shaking as I packed up my books. Some part of me was excited to finally get a break from the eyes, even for just a few moments. Star and I were going to meet up at the field and just relax while eating lunch. It was going to be okay, good even. I tried to look as busy as I could. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to get out of there, take a breath, no worry, no noise, no voices, no eyes. I shake my head as I hold the books close to my chest and wait for the students exiting the class to die down so I wouldn't be pushed around. I even took a few extra minutes to tidy the books in my arms as I watched the kids race to and from their lockers. I walked across the hall, trying to keep my eyes on the ground, counting the steps it took to get to my locker, watching my feet pass over the lined tile squares under me, trying to tune out any voice that wouldn't be Star's, but I couldn't hear her. I looked up to see my locker number right beside me, a little confused when I didn't see Star around, especially since her locker was right next to mine. I sighed, assuming she had already raced outside. I could still hear whispers of my name as I put my books away. I hadn't met any other Emmas yet, but I prayed I wasn't the only one for some sort of reassurance that not every voice was about me. I took a soft breath, sitting on my knees as I tidied up my locker, rearranging my books so I could reach my lunch bag. I looked at it as I held it in my hands, my breathing becoming heavy in my chest as I struggled not to bite my tongue. I shook my head, putting it beside me as I finally stood up, locked my locker up again, and headed towards the doors at the end of the hall. The number of kids I had to pass only made me shake as I got closer to the doors. Still too many footsteps in front of me, their eyes, their remarks, their whispers. I shake my head, trying to ignore it, pushing past it all with a slow, steady breath as I reach my hand towards the handle of the door, pushing it open and smiling ever so slightly as I see Star sitting on a small hill at the end of the field. I only got maybe 2 steps out of the doors, just enough time for them to close behind me before I was pushed. I was about to lift my arm and wave at Star to get her attention before the next thing I saw were shadows and a brick wall that cased the doors. I was in this darkened corner. I looked around frantically, even past my attackers, as I remembered the cameras that overlooked the school. Fear spiked through my spine as I saw none looking at this spot. I flinched, closing my eyes once I saw one of the attackers' hands raise and slam down on the wall beside me, pinning me against this corner. The darkness didn't worry me. I could see through it if I wanted, but it was an ability that only made this so much scarier. I shake as I hear one scoff in anger. "New kid." A heavy voice says quickly, demandingly, "Open your eyes." I look at them, my eyes widening as I noticed who they were, the same fearful yet demeaning gazes. "Wow, you're right, they are different colors," the smaller boy said. I had to look down to see him compared to the looming figure over me. I looked back up at the tall one, fear making my body shake, pain shooting through my spine in waves of spiky tingles like small electric shocks. With tall, broad shoulders attached to a strong frame, his figure could only be described as a jock in training. His glossy blonde hair swept to one side outlined his red eyes, almost crimson, and then I looked at the smaller kid. His short, round figure seemed to contrast so much with the other, his red-dyed hair with streaks of dirty blonde sweeping through the roots only seemed to dim his red eyes. Although so similar, their eyes were so different. I shake my head and look between both of them, opening my mouth to say something, yet only about halfway before the taller kid's eyes narrowed on mine. My jaw shut tightly, not wanting to cause problems, not wanting a repeat, not wanting to hurt anyone. "You're right," the taller kid said sternly. "What are you, a dog?" He didn't seem like he was insulting me as much as it was an insult. He was questioning me, questioning what I was. I couldn't let them know. I didn't want them to know. I didn't want anybody to know. I bit down on my tongue and held my breath. I didn't want to say anything to them. What if I said it all? I shut my eyes tight, prepared for some sort of fight, attack, or anything, but I prayed this one thing would work. "Clinton and Carl?" I mumble, hoping, praying even, that if I knew their names, they wouldn't hurt me. I heard Clinton scoff, the taller one of the two, glaring down at me. "So you know our names?" Clinton's eyes stared down at me, so many emotions in his eyes that I couldn't read. He looked so angry, yet so fearful. "If you tell anyone we were here, then you're gonna get it," Carl says, turning slightly. "Come on, Clinton." I guess you could tell what Clinton felt, because then when he turned around, walked off like nothing happened. I felt my heart racing in my chest, my knuckles white as snow as I held onto my lunch. I grabbed my necklace tightly in my hand. It felt so warm, almost soothing, as I rested my back against the wall. I watched them as they talked, anger in Clinton's voice before it faded off. I glanced past them into the field again to see Star looking around a bit confused, as she sat patiently for me. I pushed myself off the wall and quickly ran towards her, taking the boost of energy from running to subside the fear and anxiety this whole day has caused me. "Emma, what took you so long?" she says, smiling wide at me. I felt a lump in my throat as I sat down beside her, quickly opening my lunch bag as I thought of an excuse, a pain in my chest as I lie. "Yeah, sorry, I just had to use the washroom," I say, waving my hand dismissively, unable to force myself to calm down as I glance around, looking for where they went. I wanted them the farthest away from Star. I couldn't let them pick on her, too. She snickered and pushed my shoulder. "Well, don't take that long next time." She smiled at me, a soft, bright smile. "Yeah, I'll try not to. Hey, can you pass me your knife? I forgot to pack one." She nods and passes me her butter knife, still covered in peanut butter after getting her pancakes covered in it. "Thank you," I mumble, spreading some on mine. Once lunch ended, it all repeated. The paranoid twists of my head to any small whisper, the laughs, all the noise in general. It was too much. The school never whispered like this, did they? I heard those boys whisper louder than the rest. They seemed so malicious, but the fear in Clinton's eyes made me shiver every time I caught his stares. What if he already knew somehow? What if he was already plotting something against me like the others? What if... I shake my head as we walk home, quickly running up to Star's side after my slow strides made the distance between us grow too large for my liking. My anxious, shaking footsteps grew softer and stronger as we got farther away from the school. We were silent as we walked, both just taking the moments to decompress from the day. Star had such a bright smile on her face, and her hands gripped the backpack straps with such confidence. And then here I was, slouched over myself, my hands in my pockets, my hair still hiding my right eye, even now, if there weren't any people to stare at it. "So," I flinch as Star speaks softly, smiling at me. "Was this a better first day out of the 3 this year so far?" she says with a soft giggle. I pause, biting down on my tongue, not to let the words form before I let them go. I couldn't just say I didn't know. I did know. Jason and Devin, our previous bullies, never approached us on the first day and never showed their true colors until about a week passed. These new boys, Clinton and Carl, attacked on the first day, and Clinton seemed so much stronger and more suspicious of me for that matter. I felt my head get light as I bit down harder on my tongue, my words just as caught in my throat as my breath was. I choke out, just trying to force something to remember to breathe. "It was about the same," I mumble, sighing slowly. "Already made some enemies again." Star frowned as she looked at me. It wasn't anything like sadness or disappointment, but fear shown in whatever other mixed emotion were in her eyes. "Well," I look at her, not wanting to lie to her, but not really wanting to hide the obvious problem they were going to be. "I guess it's actually worse." Her fear grows as she stops and looks at me, her hands coming off of her backpack straps. "They cornered me today, just before I met up with you for lunch." I laughed nervously as I rubbed the back of my neck, stopping beside her. He seemed more abrasive than Jason and Devin were. We both paused, letting the thoughts flow around us before she sighed and looked back towards the house. "Well then, maybe if we show them we mean no harm, they'll leave us alone." Star smiled wide, start walking off towards the house again. My eyes widen as I notice her say we, in such an odd, familiar tone. Had they already gotten to her too? I open my mouth to question her about it before she smiles over her shoulder, already seeming to dismiss it. Come on, Mom's heating up leftovers, remember? Her smile was so warm, so unconcerned even after everything that's happened. I sighed and nodded as I walked up to her again, sprinting towards her before walking at the same calm pace as her once I caught up. After I ate, even if it was one small plate, a lack of an appetite only weighed me down as much as the rest of the day. I crawled into bed. Star was still downstairs unboxing something with Mom, but it was almost relaxing to have a calm moment with my thoughts. I lay on my bed, looking up at the roof. It seemed so bare compared to how our old room had star stickers plastered all over it. I turned over to my alarm clock, sighing at how early it was. At least I'd have plenty of energy for tomorrow. I frowned as I looked past it and out the window. Energy for whatever those boys had planned. I lose myself in my thoughts as I think back to the fear in Clinton's eyes, the fear that Jason and Devin only had once they realized what I was. He knew. Somehow deep down, Clinton already knew. I shake, my fear getting the better of me. I wrap myself in the blanket, burrowing my face into the pillow, trying to isolate my thoughts. I didn't want them to keep wandering like this. It would only fill the rest of my night with nightmares. I untangled my arms from the blanket shortly, just to turn my alarms on, and then rolled over so I was facing the wall. It was a little easier not to think when I had such a plain wall in front of me. I closed my eyes, barely taking a mental note of Star walking into the room, mainly focused on the soft noises she made, a small, calm breath outwards with a hum as she did when she smiled. It made my thoughts seem just a little bit lighter as I faded off into unconsciousness. The next morning, I woke up much earlier than my alarm was set for. I sighed, such a soft noise in the early morning, watching as the sun just began to rise, filling the room with a soft orange light. I look at my clock, turning off the alarm as I look at the time. It was 5:34. I glanced over at Star's bed, smiling softly as she laid there, curled in a ball, the blankets tight to her chest, gripped softly in her hands. She had drool dried on the corner of her mouth, snoring softly, the volume just as loud as the cars have passed on the road outside, if not quieter. I swing my feet off my bedside, planting them softly on the floor, almost admiring the softness of the carpet underneath as I step onto it. I glance back at Star before heading out the door, carefully, quiet, so as not to wake her. I smile, humming a small tune as I walk down the hall and into the bathroom to get ready. I brushed my hair out, dismissing its messy, static-filled state with a smile. Even after I got all the knots out, it seemed just as bad as when I woke up. I brushed my teeth and then head downstairs, quietly grabbing my sweater from the closet. It would be a nice morning for a walk, something to clear my head before school. Especially if Clinton and Carl act anywhere near the same as they did yesterday. I bend down to tie my shoes, flinching when I hear Star walk down the stairs. Emma, are you still here? She said softly, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Yeah, sis, just planned on going for a small walk. Did you want to join? Star paused as she yawned, stretching her arms out above her head with tears forming in her eyes from the yawn. She rubbed them away with one hand as she reached into the closet with the other, grabbing her blue sweater that seemed to match mine. I'll take that as a yes. Are you sure you were going to fall asleep while we walk? You can go back to bed, you know. I want to make sure you're safe, she mumbled, putting her sweater on. Her voice seemed so tired as she yawned again. She rubbed her eyes once again and headed for the door, passing by me with her eyes half closed. Jason and Devin could hurt you again, she mumbled, reaching for the door handle. I felt a pain surge through me as I thought back to our old bullies. She must have been too asleep to realize what she said, because she slipped on her shoes, holding onto the door handle for balance before she opened it for the both of us. She just calmly looked at me with one of her eyes closed, but with a soft smile on her face. All right, sis, I say, trying to shake off the pain. You can protect me. I'll protect you, I say, patting her shoulder as I walk out the door, pausing on the steps as I watch her slowly close it behind us. Want me to make sure you don't fall? I say, giggling softly as she turns around to walk beside me, her body swaying slightly before she rests her hand on the rail. No, I'm good, she said, walking with me down the steps. I watched her carefully before she seemed to wake up. The morning air filled both of our lungs so quickly, with the perfect, calming yet exhilarating feeling. Even with that, and now with her eyes wide, a starry, hopeful expression plastered on her smiling face, I felt so bad. She still had bags under her eyes. Her movements were sluggish and uncoordinated as we started to walk. I felt bad that she was so worried about me, just like I was for her. Worried enough to lose out on sleep she needed just to be by my side while we were out. By my side just like I would be for her. I sighed and moved a bit closer, allowing her to lean on me as we walked. Think we could get some apples? She says quietly. I nodded. Yeah, I'll reach the good ones for you. We grabbed a few good apples, and by the time we got back home from our walk, Star was her normal, hyper self as she jumped up the front steps. This would be a good addition to the pancakes, she says, holding a few apples in her hands. I could mix in some cinnamon, too. I think that would be nice, I say softly, setting down the apples I was holding beside her on the counter. We can get started on that, and I'll get our bags ready for the day. I glance at her as I am headed up the stairs, and notice as she rolls up her sleeves of her PJs so she won't get batter on them. I'll set out some clothes for you two, then you don't have to rush to pick them out. Oh, thank you, that'd be awesome. I want to wear something blue today. I laugh as I head up the rest of the stairs, calling back to her. You want to wear something blue every day. I could hear her laughter, and it made me smile at how carefree it was. I walk into our room and flick on the light as I grab our backpacks set by our door. I place them both on my bed and turn towards my dresser, looking for the clothes I want to wear today. I stared at the open drawer of shirts. I didn't know what I wanted to wear, even if it was probably going to be covered up all day by my soft purple sweater. I groaned and opened the drawer below it just to pick up my favorite pair of jeans, scratched up by the many falls I've had in the past. I look at Star's drawer and grab out some clothes for her. Some leggings she usually wore and a dark blue shirt. I glanced back over my drawer and sighed, picking out my matching blue shirt since it was easier to match what she was wearing instead of to think for myself. I fold her clothing gently on the bed, throwing an already folded pair of socks beside her stuff from her drawer. It was so tidy compared to mine. If anything was folded together, it was never a matching pair of socks. I snicker as I slip on one blue sock and one purple sock. It made me feel a bit more comfortable, especially since I knew I was going to cover my right eye with my hair all day. I fill out our backpacks and get ready, the smell of apples and cinnamon wafting through the house as I do so. I head back downstairs with our bags just as he turned towards the stairs. Oh, nice timing. I was just about to say the breakfast is ready. The apples were such a good touch. I smiled wide and grabbed some plates. I'm glad, I say softly, putting our backpacks beside the door. Everything is ready upstairs for you. Aw, thank you, Emma, she said, a big bright smile on her face as she plated some pancakes for us. I even picked out a matching pair of socks. I know how much you hate wearing mismatched ones like me. She glares at me, rolling her eyes. I don't hate it. I just rather be nice and organized. Every part of me, she says confidently. What stuff do you want on your pancakes? She opens a cabinet beside her. Same as usual? Yeah, that's good. I grab the plates for her, setting them down on the table as she grabbed the peanut butter, Nutella, and honey. Made enough for lunch, right? I say, looking at the stack of pancakes as I put them down. I already put them in our lunch kits. She moved to the side so I could see our lunch kits stacked neatly one on top of each other. I could see a pudding cup and a few orange slices in it, along with a neatly placed granola bar. I can put them in our backpacks now if you want. No. Come sit and eat. I'll do that once we're done. I smiled softly at her and motioned towards the plate. Okay. We finished our breakfast and eventually headed towards school. I could feel my nerves worsen as we got closer, seeing a few familiar faces on the way and sadly seeing Clinton and Carl standing outside of the front doors. We went around the side of the school. I think we went unnoticed for now. I listened to Star talk about how she's planning on talking to the office workers at lunch today about getting her schedule to match mine. But as we walked into the school, the busy crowds filled my ears with laughter. Laughter that I couldn't help think that it was towards me, no matter what I tried. We walked to our lockers. Star was still chatting away, and it was nice to focus on her words. It was easy, and it helped drown out just enough to make it seem bearable here. Well, I flinch as she closes her locker beside me. Want to meet up at lunch? Out in the field again? I felt the chill run up my spine. The idea that those kids could corner me again. I heard there were some clubs and stuff. Maybe we could check those out. I couldn't help pick at the fuzz around the cuffs of my sweater anxiously. Oh, that sounds fun. I think there was an art club. I bet they'd love your art. I smile and look down, the soft redness coming to my cheeks from embarrassment. Thank you, I mumbled, chuckling softly. Let's do that then. Meet me by the back doors. That's where most of the clubs are, right? I nodded softly as I grabbed my books. Then that's the plan. She stands confidently before shifting her books to one arm, outstretching the other to help me up. I grab her hand as she pulls me up. Thank you, and yeah, it's a plan. I shift my books back into my arms. See you then? See you then, she said, running off with a big smile. But now that she was gone, there was nothing left to distract me from the noise, the peering eyes, the whispers. As I stood there, staring back at the eyes that stared at me, I couldn't help but freeze up. My body shaking violently, my hands gripping onto my books. I bite down on my tongue, close my eyes as I turn away, trying to focus on just getting to class. If I got there fast enough, I could bury myself in work, catch up with the intent to ignore it all. I felt chills under the sleeves of my sweater as the whispers flooded my ears. I kept my eyes down as I walked, glancing up only to see where I was going. How many more steps till I was there? How many more until I was at the desk? I sigh as I sit down, almost not wanting to let go of the grip I had on my books. I breathed out calmly, just trying to breathe normally for a good few seconds as the kids came pouring into the classroom. Clinton and Carl walked amid the flood of kids, and I couldn't help but stare at them. The fear in Clinton's eyes matched my own as we met. I quickly looked back down, my breathing speeding up as I stared down at my books. All right, class, listen up. If you could flip to page 342, I'll start reviewing the ecosystems that we left off on. The teacher's voice was quickly drowned out by all the kids flipping open their books. I gulped down the fear in my throat and flipped to the page as well, forcing myself just to focus on the work. Class ended, and I waited for most of the students to flood out of the room before I stood up. I was almost eager to get to my next class. This one seemed to pass so quickly, and I was excited about math. It was something I was good at. It was something that made it easy to catch up and ignore everything. As I stood up, balancing my books in my arms and keeping my head down, I didn't even make it out before his voice rang through my ears louder than usual. She looks like a dog with those eyes. Carl's almost whiny voice turned into laughter as they noticed me pause in the doorway. I looked up, just barely able to see their shoes standing in front of me. I was the last in the class to leave, which meant there was no one to usher me away from them. I cleared my throat slightly, trying not to sound as scared as I was before trying to speak. I turned my head up, not knowing what to say yet, but just meeting their eyes might help me buy some time. Clinton's face quickly turned to a scowl as I didn't talk. He quickly grabbed my books and pushed them out of my arms, glaring down at me. His shadow loomed over me before I felt a pain in my skull that made the light around me seem a little too bright. And it also made him step back, fear masking any tough guy persona he had going on as he stared at me. The color of my eyes shifted to red, slightly, before I quickly looked down and started picking up my books. More like a hellhound. Clinton spat as he turned away, his voice strong and steady as he planted his feet with every step. "Ha ha! Like a demon dog!" Carl laughed as they walked away. Clinton, staying silent beside him as they did, shook my hands as I grabbed my papers. A few eyes staring, peering at me. I composed myself, breathing slowly, trying to remember Star's words. "Did you see her eyes?" My eyes widen as I stare at the ground, my feet shaking underneath me as a new voice rings out, followed by the whispers. Did you hear what he called her? Laughter rang out quickly from a voice on the other side. I focused my shaking eyes on the ground as I quickly walked to my next class. Leon seemed so fitting for the weird new girl. More laughter, more whispers. The fear I had only grew, a weight on my shoulder weighing down my fast steps, an avalanche of hate dragging me down with every new whisper, every fit of laughter, the peering eyes, the jabs, the tripping, the kids purposely bumping into me to make me drop my books. I bite my tongue. The noise is slowly drowned out by the beating of my heart as I hold my breath. Just a few more classes and then it's a weekend. Just a few more. Thankfully, once I started working on the math projects and homework, it started to seem a little easier to block it all out. I filled out so many assignments before the bell rang, and even then I didn't want to stop. It was so easy this way. Emma! I flinch, my head swinging up from my work as I hear Star call my name. She was standing with her lunch in her hands. Ready to go check out those clubs? I nodded as I packed up my things. Yeah, I just gotta drop the stuff off in my locker, I guess. I heard there was an art class. Maybe we could check that out. Her soft smile seemed a little dimmer than usual as she stood beside me. Maybe she was just tired from this morning. That was the plan, right? Do you know if it's quiet? Probably quieter than the karaoke club, she said, laughing. Her laughter made me smile just a bit and closed my eyes for just a second to bask in how much energy she always had, trying to soak it in, feed off it, to seem just a bit brighter than I was. Yeah, I chuckled softly, opening my eyes again. Yeah, I think it would be. I dropped my stuff off at my locker and grabbed my lunch before we both head to the art room. We sat down and I pulled out a sketchbook for the both of us. She liked to draw on the backs and fronts of pages, whereas I only drew on the front, so it was easy for us to share. Everything on one side was mine, and the other was hers. We talked quietly as we ate, trying not to disturb the almost peaceful quiet of the room. Everyone else that was there was silently sketching away or painting. A few kids came and sat beside us after one of them saw our drawings. I couldn't help but smile as I complimented my dragon drawings, and Star was beaming as she showed them the wolf drawing she was working on. They sat beside us quietly, drawing in their own sketchbooks on the opposite side of the table. It made me happy that it seemed not everyone knew about me yet, or maybe these kids just didn't care. Then the rest of the school day continued. The taunts and harsh words from Clint and Carl spread quickly to other groups of kids, and I even had someone come up to me and ask if I was the dog everyone was talking about. I was dumbfounded as I stared at them. A few of their friends were laughing behind them, their eyes squinted as they looked at me before chuckling and waving their hand dismissively before saying, "Never mind," and leaving towards their friends. I just sat there, staring at them as they laughed harder on the opposite side of the classroom. I had choked back an uncomfortable knot in my throat before I continued back to my work. And I gladly ran out of school after the final bell had rung. I even ran in the halls to try and avoid the kids who crowded our lockers. I waited outside for Star, standing in the corner of the front field trying not to draw attention to myself as I leaned against the fence. Smell Star comes running up to me with her backpack over her shoulder, gripping the straps tightly so it won't swing as much as she runs. "Come on, Emma," she says, running past me. "Hey, wait up," I say, smiling wide as I run up to her.